How to find and wholesale tax delinquent properties. Guys, it's Rick Ginn, and in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 steps to wholesale any tax delinquent property that you can get your hands on. But before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button. You hit that subscribe notification button to make sure you get the most up-to-date information on wholesaling today. So let's talk about it. Tax delinquent properties. What is it and how the heck do I do it? So a tax delinquent property is simply has to do when the property you have to pay property taxes, and that's usually paid at the county level. Now, all counties have different times that they're due. Some are at the end of the year, some are in the beginning of the year, some are in the middle of the year. But when the taxes come due, they have to be funded. And property tax takes a priority over all other liens on the property because the county wants to make sure they get paid first, because this funds their fire departments, funds the school systems, the roadways, everything that you need. So when they come due, if a property owner cannot pay the taxes, they usually get 3 to 4 months to pay it. They get an interest penalty every month they're late. And at a certain time, the city just has to get it funded. So what they do is they issue a tax certificate sale. And then what happens is someone basically buys the right to pay those property tax and they get paid a return. And this is the point where the property becomes delinquent in the property taxes, and it basically goes on what we call the tax delinquent rolls at the county level. And then that's where you come in as the wholesaler. Why do we want to do these types of properties? Because if someone's not paying their property taxes, it is a good indication that you could have a motivated seller on your hand. And that's why this tax delinquent roll is so valuable. So let's focus on now how to find and get a hold of these delinquent property tax rolls. So since the county handles all the property taxes, that's where you need to go. So it could be you're going to look for your county tax collector, and you're going to find this is usually a separate building. They got the DMV in there, the driving motor vehicles. This is where people sometimes do permitting, all sorts of stuff. So there should be one set designated building in your county that handles this. Now, it's much better if you go in person, hands down. Now, the really cool thing is that this tax delinquent list, it is public record. The downside is they usually have a privacy policy with it, and we're not going to debate if it's public record. We know it is. But getting access and through their privacy policy is your biggest challenge in getting these delinquent tax rolls. So the easiest way to overcome any type of resistance is with persistence. You have to be very persistent to get it. You have to be super nice and you have to stay on it. Now, you can simply say, listen, I'm doing some research to see where the most delinquent properties are, to see maybe a neighborhood I want to invest in, or maybe a neighborhood I want to stay in because I want to move to this county. Typically, they're going to ask you, why do you want these delinquent tax rolls? Come up with some creative. If you're young, like a lot of you guys out there, just tell them, listen, I'm doing a research project for my school, and I have to get the tax record, and I have to break down the data and organize it in statistical fashion. That one honestly works the best. Now, when you go there, bring a thumb drive. In the old days, we used to do, I didn't do floppy disks. I'm not that old. But we did, what do they call them? Like CDs. But usually like a thumb drive, or have them email it to you. And here's what you guys are looking for. Just take the entire list. There's no way they're going to piecemeal it for you. And obviously, you don't want it one at one. So go ahead and get the entire list. And I'm going to let you in a little secret. Most tax rolls, about 15% of the properties are on the tax roll. Now, the reason for that is not 15% are behind. A lot of people use property taxes to fund their properties, meaning they will pay them till the very last minute till it goes to a sale. And I'm going to teach you on how to get around that. So go down to your county's site. You want to get the entire roll, and you're just going to have to kill them with niceness. And remember, to overcome any resistance, you're going to use persistence. So hopefully at this point you got your list. So now you have this big ginormous list. My list is sometimes 20 to 30,000 in the big counties that I work. And obviously that is a lot of people to talk to. Now remember, I told you some people finance their taxes. Wealthy people do this all the time. I sometimes do it. And the reason is we pay that one last because we control it and we have to filter through those people. So what I want you to do is you're going to get this list. Most likely you should get it in a CSV file. Don't ask me what it stands for. I know it's like comma separated values, something like that, or an XLS file. And that's your typical Excel file. They both interchangeable. Those are what you want them on. Please try to avoid getting them on PDF because it is very time consuming and somewhat of a nightmare to try to convert those types of documents. So once you have that document, you need to separate your list. Now, you can either do this DIY by yourself, or you can hire someone off of a service like Fiverr. And I pay anywhere from $10 to $50 to have them give me exactly what I want off that list. If you're short on time and you don't know how to create and edit these types of lists, pivot tables, and stuff like that, consider using Fiverr because it saves you a lot of time, and they'll set it up the next time you get it. It will sort the list automatically for you. So keep that in mind. Now, how do we sort the list for you DIYs? Very simple. Number one, I look for people with at least 2 years or more of late taxes. Why? Because that gets rid of the people that are trying to finance their taxes. People trying to finance their tax is a 12 to 16 month thing. So if you go to 2 years, you'll get rid of those types of people. The second one you want to sort from is county-owned property. Avoid them. The only reason the county takes a property back because it's too small to build on or nobody absolutely wants to buy it. Do not waste your time on these because the county owns it and the county doesn't even pay their own tax bills on it. So you're going to find a lot of them that are owned by the county. I avoid them at all costs because there's very little you can do with them. The third thing you can sort your list on is based on if you want to buy single family homes or you want to buy vacant land. Now, there's going to be a lot of vacant land on there. And if you don't do vacant land or you don't want to do it, then you can sort it on your list. You're going to have a column that designates the type of property it is. It's different for every county, but once you understand what the header line says, you can sort out between vacant land and single family homes. And guys, don't overlook vacant land. You can wholesale vacant land just as easily. If you want to learn how to do that, go over to freewholesaling.com. You can do vacant land and single family home. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. The last one you want to sort is based on the value of the property. And there's two ways to do it. Sometimes your county will give you what they consider a market value, which is how they assess the taxes, also called a tax assessed value, which is TAV. And you can sort it based on that. Now, most of you aren't going to be buying $1 million properties that do that. And if you're a beginner and you're starting out, make sure you do not waste your time chasing people down on properties that are out of your price range. So if it's $1 million or more, you can edit your list and say anything over $1 million, just wipe it off. Because the reality is there's very few $1 million properties I've ever even connected with or talked to on a delinquent tax roll. Now, if you want to even narrow your list down, maybe it's huge. Maybe you want to put it under $500,000 or less. Guys, price never scares me. If there's a motivated seller, remember, if there's a deal there, you can make it work. But the level of sophistication of $1 million property or higher are probably going to be above what most of you do. And for that reason, I want you to filter your list according to the target price in the area and you're looking for. You don't have to be perfect. Just make a decision. Maybe it's $1 million under, maybe it's $500,000 under, maybe it's $250,000 or under, and then you can sort your list accordingly. Now, one more little trick on sorting a list. I'm here to tell you, you can actually do one step level. Once you sort that list, if you guys have regular lists like code violations, fire damaged properties, water shutoff lists, pre-foreclosures, obviously we have the tax delinquency is, you can cross-reference any of those properties with your other lists. Once again, maybe using someone Fiverr or someone has more mad Excel skills than you or me have, and you can identify if any of the tax delinquency owners are on any other these lists. Because if you identify, if someone's on the tax delinquency list and they're on the code violation list and they're in a foreclosure situation, that's one I'm going to give the absolute highest priority and I'm going to go get it done. Guys, this is called list stacking. It's really not that complicated, but the more signs that someone's in distress, the more opportunity is to get a great wholesale deal. If you want to add this layer to it, you can figure out this part. So let's move on to the next part and let's figure out how to connect and contact tax delinquency owners. In my opinion, there's only 3 ways to connect with a tax delinquent owner, and I'm going to do them in order of importance. So we have the list, we do everything. The first thing you want to do, my favorite way, is always going to be cold calling because it is a numbers game. So obviously you're going to have to skip trace the list. If you guys want to learn how to skip trace without killing yourself, go over to zachdata.com and you can do like a bulk skip trace through batch and get it done pretty cost effective, and it works very well. The other way you can do it manually. For those who don't have money, go to truepeoplesearch.com, and you got to go contact number by contact number. It's going to take you some time, but if you don't have money, that's what you have to do. So once we have that, you're basically going to do a cold call. And a cold call is really simple. Like, Rick, what do I say? Just call them up. Are you the owner of 123 US Street? Great. Awesome. Hey, do you have any interest in selling that property? Well, I've thought about it. Hey, listen, we're buying some houses in the area for cash, and your property came up in your list. I would love to meet with you to discuss it further. You mind if I ask you a few questions? Really that simple. Cold calling is mostly about disqualifying first, then qualifying. So get in the disqualified mode. Then once there's interest and want to talk to you, then go to the qualifying mode. Use the MCTP, motivation, condition, timeline, and price. If you want to learn more how to do that, go over to freewholesaling.com. I'll teach you in detail on how to qualify any seller for a wholesale deal. But guys, cold calling is hands down the best way to do it. And to me, it's the most efficient because you can contact thousands of people all in the comfort of your home or your office, and you could do it relatively quick. The second way to do it is simply, now you have that same list. Now, here's the cool part is you don't really have to skip trace the list if you want to do this way, and you can do what we call reverse driving for dollars. And that's simply by getting a list and putting a route out and driving to each of these doors and putting a sticky note on the door, and it basically says, hey, I got a quick question about your property. Call me, Rick. And I put my virtual phone number on there, and it's that simple. Now, why I like using this method is if you have someone that you identified in stacking your list or anything like that, you've got to go out to them as fast as possible. Here's the secret with people in tax delinquency. They tend to procrastinate and avoid any type of phone calls, meetings, or anything like that. So you do have to be a little bit more pushy, a little bit more aggressive, because they're used to people chasing them down for bills. They're used to getting notices. And I love cold calling, but I will tell you the reverse driving for dollars works very, very well because you can actually run into them, or that note on the door is something very different than any other bill collector or anyone else has done with them. And by the way, when they connect with you, let them know you're here to help them out. But I like them to tell me what their problem is. If they're on the phone and they call you back, I don't say, hey, I see your property's behind, because you're going to start off in a really bad relationship. And remember, you're there to help. You're there to solve a problem, and the more problems you solve, the more money you're going to make in wholesaling. My third one is direct mail. I'm going to tell you, I'm not a big fan of this one. I still do it, but we have a very, very low rate of return on phone calls. Why? Because they just assume it's another bill in the mail. If you want to find a creative way to send the correct postcard, do not send your standard "we buy houses" to them, because they will not read it. I recommend the ROS postcard. It's really the best way to do it. If you want to learn more how to do that, go over to mailingmastery.com. It is the only postcard I would ever send to anybody in a tax delinquency situation, because it's the only one that ever gets a response, because it's an actual offer to them. You send a standard piece of mail, I almost guarantee you they're not even going to open it, look at it, and they're just going to throw it away. So cold calling, reverse driving for dollars, and then if you had to do, you could do direct mail. So at this point, you've met with the homeowner, you get it under contract, and so now, like, okay, Rick, how does it work with a wholesale property? Now, you have back taxes. This is the only different element that you're not used to. What you need to do is calculate what the back taxes is. How do I do that? Number one, ask the seller. They typically know. You can also go to your public tax paying site for property taxes, and it's public record of what they're behind. And then the third way is, guys, use your title company. They'll tell you when they pull the title, they'll tell you exactly what they owe on it. So you're not guessing at this part. So some people owe 5 grand, some owe 10. I've seen as high as 50 grand. Use that number just like you would in rehab, but the really cool part is you don't have to do the rehab. Someone has to pay that money when the property changes hands on a traditional closing. And for that reason, just look at back taxes like you would look at repairs. I need a discount to solve this problem. And that's what you got to understand. That's the only difference. Now, I have a lot of people who are just a year or two behind on their taxes, some as low as a couple $1,000s. If I'm making a $50,000 profit, I offer to pay for the taxes because I know I can get a signature and I know that's what they want, and it makes them super happy. It's great. Now, if you have a deal with a very small profit margin, you need the seller to pay their back taxes at the closing. That all happens with the title company. It is legally their responsibility unless you offer to pay for it. The only way I offer to pay for it if I'm getting a smoking deal. And here's the big secret I want you to understand. You don't have to pay their property taxes. In fact, you're never going to pay them yourself. And if you want to structure the deal, you can set it where your cash buyer pays the back taxes on the property. Guys, everything's negotiable. If you include that in an addendum in your contract, you notify them in the assignment assignment of contract, your cash buyer can pay the back taxes on the property. Yes, they're going to figure out what the value of it is, what's owed on it, and they're going to figure their offer based on that. But what I'm hearing is there's so many of you guys think you have to pay the property taxes. You don't. It gets settled up at your closing. What you need to do is get a great deal on that. So either you're going to pay the taxes, include it part of your closing costs because you're making a monster profit, or you're going to have the seller pay it out of their proceeds. Or if you have one of those in the middle, you can set it up where if the seller says, listen, I'm only going to do this deal if you pay these $3,000 in back taxes. If you're making a healthy $15,000 to $20,000 assignment, you can try to pass the back taxes on to your cash buyer and tell them that's part of the closing cost. Sometimes they bite, sometimes they don't. Give it a shot, guys. I do it all the time. It's like 50-50 every time I do it. I never just offer to pay for it. So I want you to understand, I never want you to pay for the property taxes. Either your seller pays for it, or you swallow it in a monster profit, or your cash buyer pays for it. So guys, let me know. Are you chasing down tax delinquent properties for your wholesaling business? And what kind of successes are you having doing it? Guys, I love this. It is actually much easier in doing repairs on it because back taxes is a hard number. Once it's funded, the problem solved, it's good. The difference is have somebody else fund it other than yourself. Have your cash buyer, have your seller fund it. Whatever you have to do, guys, don't be scared of this. It works really well. So guys, let me know in the comments if you're using tax delinquencies in your wholesaling business. And guys, if you got value from this video, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe notification button to continue to receive the best information on wholesaling today. Guys, this is Rick Ginn, and I'll see you in the next video.